Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here talking about Google and the recently released Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro. And it appears that they've blocked Geekbench and 3D Mark on both of these phones in the Google Play Store. Now, unfortunately, this has been confirmed by a number of different sources, including notebookcheck.net, and I'll drop a link to this article in the description below. The speculation here is that Google's new Tensor G3 chip is not performing well in these tests at all. And Google obviously doesn't want those test results to get out. And this has kind of been proven by people sideloading these apps and running the tests themselves. Interestingly enough, and not surprisingly, people are defending Google here, saying that they're blocking this because of security concerns in Android 14. And I want to call BS on that one right from the get-go. I mean, I've got a Google Pixel 7 Pro running Android 14. And I can install Geekbench 6. Unfortunately, I don't have a Pixel 8 or Pixel 8 Pro to check this one out myself, but if you do, let me know in the comments below what your results were when trying to install Geekbench 6 or 3D Mark. If this is true, which it really looks like it is, that is very unfortunate, and I'm not about censorship here for this kind of thing. It seems completely unnecessary. And speaking about Android, next up here we're talking about the ship of Harkinian. For those who may not be aware, this is a source port of Ocarina of Time for the N64. It currently works on PC and also the Wii U and Nintendo Switch, and now on Android. If you are curious about this one, it's on GitHub, it's 100% free, it's open source, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below, and version 1.0.0 just released. It's worth pointing out that this is not perfect just yet. Touch controls have not been implemented, a controller is required. And a PC version of Ship of Harkinian is also required to generate some stuff. And speaking about controllers, moving on, we're talking about PlayStation 2 emulation with PCSX2, and there was an update here for some direct input controllers. So in the settings menu under D-Input Source, there's a new checkbox that says Ignore Inversion, and this allows you to ignore the inversion flag on a direct input controller. They say here that third-party controllers and adapters, most notably all the PS2 to USB adapters, seem to have the stick appearing to be pressed, even though it's resting at a neutral position. And this checkbox helps eliminate that. Next up, we're talking about Linux, and if you've got a Logitech USB dongle and when you unplug it, it crashes your kernel, well, I've got some good news for you. A fix appears to be in the works for Linux kernel 6.6. And once this fix is released, it's going to be backported to stable Linux kernel versions. Next up here, we're talking about a brand new game coming to the Sega Megadrive or Sega Genesis. It's called Lunatic Fighters, and it's about prisoners that have to fight each other. There's a bit of a gameplay trailer from 10 months ago on the developer's YouTube page, which I will drop a link to in the description below. It appears this game is going to be seeking some crowdfunding pretty soon. From Catarse, or Catarse, I'm not quite sure on how to pronounce that. It's a crowdfunding campaign in Brazil. Although this is currently a work in progress, I've got a soft spot for fighting games. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about Linux, moving on, we're talking about W.I.N.E, which stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or W.I.N.E is not an emulator, depending on how you want to interpret that. Anyways, there's a brand new development release of W.I.N.E 8.18. So in this version of W.I.N.E, they've got more window management in Wayland, they've got more effects support in DirectX 10, and they've got some various bug fixes, including some stuff for Unreal Tournament 2004. And speaking about W.I.N.E, next up we're talking about GE Proton, and GE Proton 8-17 just released. Now, I don't recommend using GE Proton for everything except for specific games that are listed here. For example, in this version, they've added a Proton fix for Alan Wake, added one for Batman Arkham Asylum, Tokyo Necro, The Song of Saya, and You, Me, and Her, A Love Story. And while I was recording this one, GE Proton 8-19 was released with a fix here for World of Warships. And speaking about alternatives, last up here we're talking about Linux distribution Bazzite OS. It's an alternative OS for the Steam Deck and can also be used on PCs to bring a SteamOS-like experience to them. but instead of using Arch, it's powered by Fedora and Universal Blue. At the time of filming, version 1.3.0 has just dropped. We've got a bunch of bug fixes and brand new features. They enabled the Steam patch for any hardware other than the Steam Deck. It fixes the resolution issue that requires desktop games to select native for every title in game mode. And on top of that, there's adding an optional shell theme that makes app indicators function like a proper tray. And on a quick side note, we're all still waiting for SteamOS 3 on PC. I'd argue the current version of SteamOS for PC is pretty outdated. And a friendly tip here, if you're looking for some gaming-focused Linux distributions, you can also check out Nobara and Chimera OS. And we've talked about these ones in previous videos. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff in no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.